Yes, we're live.
All right. Well done, Jill.
Yay, Facebook threw another curveball, but no stress and we're here.
Yes, that's right. That'll teach me to write about curveballs, huh?
Yes, that's right. That's right. I mean, we've had a curveball with getting live on Facebook before, didn't we? And we ended up having to go live on my personal profile
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
instead
you're
of
right.
the group.
Yeah.
And I got totally flustered that time, which 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 is a really interesting thing, that it's so different when we get flustered to when we can just let it, well, it's happening. And I mean, you're the calmest person to have experienced that with. And for me to be getting flustered and you're so calm there, and I remember thinking afterwards, I was so glad it was you,
Oh,
because you didn't add to any of my fluster. We just went with it, and that's an interesting thing as well, isn't it, with curveballs, how they can end up being like a ball that's rolling, growing bigger,
snowball. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
to just, yeah, okay, let the ball stay stationary.
That's good. Oh man. Well, that's great. That's a beautiful compliment to me as well.
Well, it's true.
Admittedly, it is easy since I'm just sitting here and you're doing all the work. But I hear what you're saying, and I recognize that you're speaking to a frequency level of exchange.
Yeah, yeah. Karen is with us saying good morning to us and good
Hey,
afternoon
Karen.
to me.
All right.
Yeah, but it is an energy exchange, isn't it? If,
It is.
like, you remaining calm didn't add anything.
Hmm. Well, it did add something. It added the potential for you to feel calm and spacious, and it added the quality of grace.
It didn't grow my
That's right. That's right.
anxiety.
That's right.
That's what I meant when it didn't add. It
Yes.
didn't add in a way that was not going to be helpful.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, it was not fertilizing that orientation of focus.
No. But yeah, so we didn't really pin anything around today, because
Mhm.
we were just going to be as we are.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that could be really enlightening, insightful, expansive,
Mhm.
and opens up unlimited possibilities, doesn't it?
Sure does. So there are so many beautiful possibilities for us to explore today. I know that there's all sorts of good, inspired energy very much alive within me. I would imagine that you, with your recent travels and discoveries, are carrying all sorts of goodies too. And I believe that we would also, as usual, wish to involve and include anyone who has joined us with any questions that they might be bringing, any questions at all. It can be questions regarding services that I provide or ideas that I've proposed in the past, or even just life happening, And so I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I am as well. Karen has said, could I expand on something? I don't know, because of that time delay
Mhm.
when we've spoken to when the message comes through. I don't know quite what Karen wants to
We were talking about you.
expand.
Maybe she'll tell us. I'll
Yeah,
bet you.
yeah, you'll have to come back and just pop that in. But yeah, there's your work is so alive. I mean, when I watch your videos and read your posts, I always feel so excited.
Mm,
There's a real life force in there.
it's true. It's true. And that is by design. In fact, I don't write and I don't record and I don't share, I don't speak until that life is alive in the words, which is why a great deal of time sometimes passes between posts. It's because I'm working in here before I'm delivering out here.
Yeah. And I know that because I've known you quite a while, and I've sort of seen the beginnings of things, and often then a silence, and then a bigger, almost like statement of what started here is now over here.
Yes, you're right.
And then I always know there's going to be more.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
I also know that you're living that yourself.
Yes. I'm living what we discussed several conversations ago when we were exploring the whole idea of a future business, a way of being in relationship to our businesses that is somehow not disconnected from who we are. The personal and professional, those boundaries, those imaginary lines begin to blur. And whatever it is that we may be contributing professionally is somehow now an extension of or expression of our deeper self. And so it then necessarily connects to a much deeper pattern, rhythm, timing, flow, and quality.
Mm.
So there's the idea that less is more. And there's the idea that the less you say, the more impact what you do say will have. But all of that is just built, it's just a way of calling nature what it is.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, it's not some strategy for me. It's not like I'm being quiet for a month so that when I finally do post, everyone's like, wow, so impressive. It's just that it takes a month for that seed to germinate, and then there's a sprout. And then you come back in a couple more months and that sprout is history. And there's this like new living entity producing a blossom, and then wait a little longer and now it's bearing fruit, you know?
Yeah.
So that's all just written into the nature of this exchange. But generally speaking, we have become so disconnected from nature that when we see this unfolding in my experience or yours or anyone's, it feels alien. It feels like some kind of special magic, and it's not. It's actually the most ordinary, most obvious expression in life, in that it is an expression of life through the unique medium of me and you and the next person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of marketing out there to say, what are you creating today? You know, and that'll appeal like every day. What you're creating today, what you're creating today, what are you, how are you being seen today? And it's this almost like, and there's no space for that first growth.
That's right.
And some people live in that energy of every day, bang, 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 don't they? But
a lot of people do.
That's not everybody's energy, is it?
No, I don't know that that's anybody's natural, sustainable way of being. Truly. I mean, it's funny, when I first started offering mirror sessions, which at the time were my take on a human design reading, I found myself spending a lot of time with these charts in preparation for the calls, and over again, I would see certain themes. And so I remember I would meet with a generator, and I'd be like, oh my, so you're a generator type. Therefore, what I'm seeing here is that you need to slow way down in your life experience in order to open to what's happening here. Okay. Then the next person, oh, hey, you're a projector. Well, based on what I'm seeing here, you're going to need to slow way down in order to tap this. Oh, hey, you're a manifestor. Well, first step, you're going to have to slow. And eventually I started to figure it out. I'm like, oh, the message is the same for all of us. We're not here to hustle. We are not here to hustle. What a waste of a miracle of life hustling to achieve something is. Like, really? If we actually were able to tap, even for a moment, the sincere richness, the depth of miracle that is the very fact of our existence, if we could touch that for a moment, we would be changed.
Yeah.
We would slow down because we would have to suck the marrow out of every moment. We'd stop running around on the surface for nonsense. Everyone needs to slow down. And then once everyone slows down, they can reconnect to their own way of being, which may include occasional bursts of productivity. I mean, look at the animals out there. You've got a sloth, you've got a peregrine falcon, right? Some people are here to be the most spectacular, intelligent sloths ever. And some people are here to be the peregrine falcon. But even the peregrine falcon, even though it can dive at hundreds of miles an hour, it spends the majority of its time perched or hovering. It's not always diving, otherwise it would be dead. And we are the same.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I went to a falconry center.
What?
And the guy, oh, this was years ago. This is like 20 odd years ago. But I never forgot that the guy said, if they take a bird out to fly and it's 1 ounce over its body weight, fly it in the train, it won't come for the lure.
Wow.
He said they will only fly as a necessity to sustain their body.
Wow. Well, that's interesting because it reminds me of a quote by Rainer Maria Rilke in his book, Letters to a Young Poet. And I wish I could remember the quote verbatim. And I also wish the book was still sitting right here, but a lot of my books are kind of like packed away right now. But in this book, he's speaking to a young enthusiast about writing.
Yeah, I got the book here.
Oh, you do? Oh, that's awesome. So you know the book. And he tells this kid, look, unless you absolutely must write or die, you have no business writing.
Yes.
If you're writing to be seen, if you're writing to be published, if you're writing in order to make a profession of being a writer, he says, do us all a favor and knock it off. Go do something else. But whatever it is that you are called to do from the very core of your being, that you must do. And this is the same as the bird knows this. The bird knows, hey, I will act, but I will not act until it's time.
Yeah.
And we are the same, but we have not been trained to act this way. We've been taught to maintain a steady flow of routine action in order to produce for someone else. And that's how the human spirit has been exploited for the purposes of industrial expansion.
Yeah.
But we're not here like machines or robots. We're here as literal art forms, God himself or herself, spirit, infusing human form in order to live an epic narrative. I don't know how else to like say it. We're here for something really big and beautiful, and it has nothing to do with our typical conception of productivity. But if we were to redefine productivity, you would realize very quickly that just like the animals sitting perched or flying or appearing to do nothing, productivity is built into every moment. The moment you wake up, the miracle has occurred. The gift is unfolding. There's like the productivity, the art is built into every move, not just the ones that appear to produce something that we can sell.
Yeah.
Or that someone else can sell.
Yeah, there's so much more behind it, isn't there?
Literally everything is behind it. The essence is behind it. And we miss the essence when we're focused on the expression.
Yeah.
And the great joke that in our...
that is a quote that stands on its own.
You're right, actually. You're right. So we miss the essence when we're focused on the expression.
Yeah.
And that emphasis on the expression disconnects us from any awareness to the essence. And the irony is that if we were to focus on the essence, the expression would be built in. We would, in fact, get the thing we might otherwise yearn for simply by relaxing into the essence itself. That's the law of attraction. That's manifestation. That's what everyone's kind of, even in the spiritual realms, you know, everyone's kind of like reaching for an understanding of this thing. And it's so very simple, so very obvious, so very available that we've somehow missed it. And that's what the Forgotten Sense is all about, by the way. I'm so happy that we're even leaning in this direction, because one of my great hopes and intentions for this call was that we could at some point kind of touch on the Forgotten Sense, because there's nothing more important that I've ever discovered, created, or offered. It's fundamental to everything. So I'll pause there for a moment, because I can tell, we're speaking in terms that you and I have lived, not only read about. So I really want to be able to expand on them.
Oh, please do. I mean, Karen has sent a message, which is,
Oh, good.
again, with the time delay. She said she's holding that right now, Tim. She went to Massachusetts over the weekend to meet with a 94-year-old uncle that she'd never met before, and some cousins she'd never met. And the entire day was so lovely, just spending time talking about the family, enjoying nature above a beautiful lake, and taking a boat out onto the lake, watching the path of a heron, and just absorbing the experience of it.
Perfect. So that was productive.
Yeah, it
That
is,
was
isn't it?
productivity. Yes.
And it's absorbing the experience of something is that essence, isn't it?
It absolutely is. There is a dramatic difference between being alive and truly living. And we hear that and it's become a bit of a cliche, except it's not. It's not a superficial statement at all. And so what Karen just described was a long stretch of opening to the gift of living. And she was able to meet that. And that gift produced the poetry she just shared with us. It produced the quality of relationships she was able to encounter. Those are not small things. And all of that now becomes a part of her. So all of that integrates, all of that somehow transforms the quality of being that she is. And now she's already sharing it with us.
Yeah. And she said that felt like the most important time of the entire weekend.
Boom. It was.
Yeah. And it was probably the essence of the whole weekend.
Yeah. Well, it was a connection to the essence. Turns out the essence was there all along, but it required that slowness, that pace, that movement into nature, and that movement into expanse on the water, and all of these things to really kind of remember how much was happening. That's typical.
Yeah, because they're big things, aren't they?
Everything is a big thing. That's the point. Everything is a big thing. We're just typically moving too quickly to capture it. Everything is a big thing. You wake up, that's a big deal. You walk into the bathroom first thing in the morning, a big deal. Brew tea or coffee, God is in that tea and coffee. God is in the hand that moves the kettle. We're the jokers. We've tricked ourselves into thinking that only certain things at certain times with certain intentions and certain frames or states of mind are special. And we're wrong. Everything is special.
Yeah.
The essence is what animates every moment. We have only forgotten it. But if we could remember the essence, then literally every moment would become illuminated. That's what enlightenment is. Enlightenment isn't some great spiritual aim. It can be, but if it is, you miss it. Enlightenment is ordinary.
Yeah. It's that very ordinary moment.
It's an awareness of how extraordinary every ordinary moment truly is.
Yeah. I mean, us meeting like this on Zoom could be perceived as ordinary. But it's the most exciting thing in the world, isn't it?
It truly is. Yes.
You know, to spend the time to be in this moment, and Karen with us, and whoever watches, later or on replay, we're still all together in this moment.
We are. Yeah, that's right. And the specialness is inherent to the moment, whether we recognize it or not. But there is something extra special that occurs when we become aware of it. And I think what happens is that the quality of our individual essence or vibration elevates. As we become aware of it, you feel that as like a flush or a thrill within you. And that feeling is a direct indication, a physiological indicator that the quality of your vibration has now been uplifted. That's why it feels uplifting, because it is literally physically uplifting. And the impact of that is dramatic. The impact of that is dramatic. And David Hawkins, as one example, is someone who measured the impact. And I love that. That's why I return to his work so often, because it helps my conscious mind to kind of relax into the understanding that though there are many, many aspects of our experience that we can't physically, visually engage with, we can't understand because they're invisible, they're still happening. We don't understand gravity or electricity. These things are invisible to us. And yet they're real and they're affecting us. Same thing is true here. And David Hawkins, in his book, Power versus Force, demonstrates scientifically through measured experimentation that a single person operating at the frequency of love offsets 750,000 other people operating at the frequency of fear, which means that the moment you or I or both of us or the three of us experience this up-leveling of the energy within, the impact is felt not just between us, not just over time as people find their way to this video, but right now, it ripples off into all of consciousness, and it affects and changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do with that? I mean, what you do with that is once you see it, you become responsible for the quality of your vibration, and you recognize that even if you never speak to another soul in your entire human experience, you still have this powerful impact.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And what we speak about and speak into is part of that, isn't it?
It is. Oh, absolutely. Because the vibrations that we create through our voice, these are an even denser expression of that same thing, which means that they actually carry more material or physical impact. That sonic signature, the tone of your voice, the specific words that you're using and the frequency of those words, much of which is actually measurable through systems like numerology, as one example. You know, all of this is creative. It is all creative. And we're always either creating something that uplifts or something that depresses, something that expands and opens or something that tightens and constricts. Every single moment we are doing that. For the most part, most people, and even I think most of us who are paying attention to this, have historically applied this powerful truth haphazardly, accidentally, and completely unconsciously. And so when we have happened to show up in a way that's bright and joy-filled and excited and, you know, wonder-filled and all of these things, we have happened to have a beautiful impact. But then, you know, our attention is basically being dragged around by any number of sources. And so we're all over the place. We're happy, we're sad, we're excited, we're depressed, you know, and so we're having all of these random effects. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a superhero movie where you've got this like new superhero has just discovered his power. And when he goes like this, he shoots a laser beam, right? But he doesn't understand how it works. So at first, you know, he's like this, he's all over the place, and the house is getting demolished. You know, this laser beam is destroying everything. We're like that. We've barely recognized our power. Most of us aren't even aware of it. And those of us who are aware of it are over here going, how does this thing work? And, you know, probably making a mess. But we get to become aware of it. And the moment we become aware of it, we become responsible for it. And with discipline and practice and a growing awareness of how this works and what it can do, I guarantee you, and this is what the Forgotten Sense is all about. The Forgotten Sense literally models how this works. It shows us in clear terms, unavoidable terms that a child can understand exactly how this works so that we can put it to work, so that we can do this on purpose, so that we can literally become superheroes, creative agents in our own experience.
Wow. I love
We're so
that.
focused. Thank you, Jill. We're so focused on manifesting for ourselves. The fact of the matter is that we are manifesting or creating not only in our own worlds, but indefinitely into the future. We're literally creating for consciousness as a totality at all times. It is a deep responsibility. There's a reason that those of us on this path have felt such a powerful call, because we are powerful creators. We're here on purpose. It's important for us to remember that. And then once we've remembered it, it is of absolute importance for us to practice to get it under control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we don't need to have that fear of somebody taking from us, do we?
Never, never, ever. Only we can take from ourselves.
Yeah. And yet I know Karen has said something. Oh, so a question.
Yes.
Is there data on the possibility that when we are in the moment, in the force of love, that the force of chaos or negativity is drawn to it? And when it comes near, we begin to feel protective of that force of love.
I would say yes and no. This is a tricky one. David Hawkins does speak to this. On the one hand, he says, and this, by the way, this is something that requires contemplation, and I'm not showing up with answers here. It's a great question, Karen. I'll tell you what I've heard. Yeah, I'll tell you what I've heard. Using David Hawkins as one teacher, one example. On the one hand, he will say that the moment that you commit to yourself that you wish to express unconditional love, you will meet all of the forces which are set against it. In other words, you'll be tested, just like a video game, you know, and in order to complete level 1, you'll have to face down a boss. And then when you do it, you'll go to level 2 and it'll be a bigger boss. It's practice, it's training, right? So we recognize this in basically every level of our experience. In any case where you want to develop something, you kind of have to face greater and greater challenges in order to build muscle and build skill. And what we're referring to here, maintaining a frequency of love, for instance, that literally requires skill.
Yeah.
Now, it only requires skill because we've been so poorly programmed. The skill is essentially reprogramming so that we can relax into what's natural. In time, no more skill is required, and who you are is naturally expressive of who you are. But until we return to that totally, it's a practice as we retrain old habitual patterns and these sort of things. So anyway, on that level, I agree with David Hawkins. But then on the other side, it's also true that whatever frequency you're vibrating at is attractive only to that same frequency, right? So if you're vibrating at a frequency of love, then what will ultimately happen is as these specters of fear, for instance, find their way into your orbit, they get vaporized because they can't exist under the influence of that force of love.
That's what I was.
Yeah, it is a self-protective bubble.
Yeah, it can't exist, can it? You know,
Nope. Yeah.
if you're in that vibration and it's positive, negative vibration can't stand to be near it.
That's right. It shakes itself off. And that happens vibrationally. You don't have to do a thing. You don't have to set up boundaries. You don't have to self-protect, self-defend. You maintain your posture and understand that energetically, the vetting process is built in. And you can't turn off the sun. I mean, it's a beautiful sunny day out there right now. If I go out there, where's the light switch? How do I turn on the darkness? There is no such thing. There is no such thing. The light is all pervasive. Right? We are the ones who resist it. We are the ones who get in the way, the ones who trick ourselves into thinking that if I'm not directly facing the sun and burning my eyeballs, then no sun exists. It's silly, you know? So great. I mean, I'm loving these questions, and I'm so grateful, Karen, for your involvement, because this is powerful stuff.
She said maintaining the posture. I mean, a tool I've always used if I feel that something isn't quite right around me, is the quick heart coherence meditation. And, you know, if you can put your hand on your heart as well,
Mhm.
then your attention goes into your heart.
Mhm.
And I will use that meditation throughout different times of the day, just to keep my awareness in my
Beautiful.
heart.
Yes.
And sometimes, you know, the energy's been quite volatile, hasn't it, in the last couple of years,
Mhm.
especially in the last couple of years. And I find to take a step back rather than reacting in, hand on heart, and do that quick coherence meditation,
Yes.
and then look at things from an observing point.
Yes. Absolutely, yes. It feels counterintuitive in the moment because we have a tendency to want to lean in, to kind of like dig in our heels and lean into the apparent source of threat or discord in order to either self-justify, debate, or even in an effort to resolve it or fix it in some way. So that pause that you've just described, and Richard Rudd talks a lot about this, the author of the Gene Keys, talks about the importance of pressing pause, and I fully agree that when we can do this and we can give ourselves space to reconnect to our own center rather than reacting to whatever appears to be so important outside of us, and then you come in and you come down, now you're resourced in a new way. You'll still face whatever is unfolding, but you'll face it from a different position. And that's, you know, Karen picked up on the posture, maintaining the posture. I use this word on purpose because it is a literal posture. It's a posture that we can hold in the body, and it's a posture that we can hold internally too, and the two work together.
Yeah. And they require can't think of the word I want now. They require some effort, don't they, to become effortless?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. It is because we run out of words when we occupy this territory. So there are ways of being that have become second nature. They feel natural to us, but they are in no way connected to what is natural with a capital N for us. So I think of them in terms of natural small n and natural capital N. Right? And in order to return ultimately to what is natural for us, in order to return to the full expression of that great truth within you, we first need to, you know, get our machete and weed whack all of the lies that have kept us apart from that. And so we need to move from what feels natural to what is natural, and that process often feels very unnatural, often feels very difficult, but it's the most important work we could be doing. In fact, many people in this process will experience what are known as healing crises, where the actual process of healing and returning to what's natural indicates physically as some form of imbalance. People will get sick. Some people get extremely sick, you know, sick, ill, unwell. They feel horrible. They feel depressed. All of these things seem to imply that it's not working. And yet all of these things are the very indications of that inner progress. This is some warped territory that we enter when we go in. And the only reason it feels that way is because it's new to us. We're pioneers when we go inward. And as much work has been done on this, as many books have been written, as much as you and I might ever be able to contribute to this area, the fact of the matter is that it differs from one person to the next. The specifics of it differ, but the principles sustain, which is why everything I ever create is going to focus on the principle, because that principle can be adapted to the individual.
And with the forgotten sense, is there a lot of weed whacking going on?
Not in the presentations themselves, actually.
Right.
So when you meet the forgotten sense, you're meeting a model that is, it's a 4-point model. It's as simple can get. And honestly, of those 4 points, we're only responsible for 2. So Very simple model. And that model is functioning beneath the surface of everything we experience. So whether we're on the topic of decision-making, relationships, professional contribution, creative contribution, spiritual achievement, under all of these things is the forgotten sense. It's our single most powerful resource, which is what allows us to make effective use of our single most powerful human power, most significant human power. So understanding how it works, meeting the mechanism of this is stupidly simple. It's embarrassingly simple. But then implementing what we've learned through the practice of wayfinding, what I refer to as the practice of wayfinding, that's weed whacking. That's the tendency to, so wayfinding is a system of orientation. When you go for a walk in the woods, you actually see wayfinding markers on the trees. Usually they'll be in different colors or different shapes, indicating what trail you're on so you don't get lost.
Yeah.
Well, you know, we're quite a bunch of knuckleheads. We're supposed to be in the woods following these signs. Instead, we're on rooftops constantly like navigating off the top of these skyscrapers and wondering why our lives hurt so bad. We're utterly misplaced. Wayfinding is about returning ourselves again to what is natural and utilizing the forgotten sense, a literal forgotten sense, to navigate our experience from one moment to the next. That's a practice. So we could refer to that practice as weed whacking, because every time you return again to what's natural, you are resetting a pattern or reprogramming unhelpful patterns and returning again to what's natural for you. Yeah, great question though. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know you talk about the spiral. And it's something that I first discovered the spiral in photography, to be honest.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, and I know with living the spiral, we keep coming around and meeting things again, don't we?
We sure do.
And what I was thinking this morning was, okay, I'm living on my spiral. Everybody's living on their own spiral. Is the Earth and the planets and the universe also operating on its own spiral? And then I thought, are all the different dimensions in time also on a spiral? And then my mind kind of exploded.
Yeah, because now you're knocking on the door of infinity, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe all of that is entirely true. The idea that this universe expands, I think it's more than an idea. You know, it's pretty verifiable. Life replenishes itself, and it just does not stop. And without impediment, that life not only replenishes itself, but it multiplies itself.
Yeah.
You get destructive efforts, our best attempts to help it along out of the way, and this thing happens flawlessly. And honestly, we wouldn't be here if it didn't. The very biological forms that we occupy are somehow a miraculous outcome of that very process.
Yeah.
And we're not the end of the story either.
No.
As much as we might like to think that we are. Smartest animal ever, you know.
It feels like right at the beginning, doesn't it?
We are always right at the beginning. Yeah.
But the thought of every different time that exists in time, all being on a spiral. It's yeah, the words are not, I just don't have the words for the.
Pretty trippy. I can see that you see it though. Like you've got a vision of this thing that does transcend our use of words.
Yeah, it's, for me, that's always a frustrating time when there's just not the words to put around it.
I understand, but it's also okay because honestly, we're not here to talk about stuff. We're here to experience it. The fact that we get to talk, share, intelligently communicate it all is basically an added bonus to the experience of living. Unfortunately, we've turned that on its head and we've made the experience of living about speech and recognition and all of these things, which actually and ultimately disconnect us from the experience itself. Yeah, so I hear what you're saying, but also it's like, hey, that's the very best things you'll ever touch can't be said.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it?
And some of the best things can't be said except through touch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Words are actually, they're incapable of capturing deep truths. That's why the deepest truths are typically written in forms that are abstract, poetry, for instance. Or story.
Yeah. Yeah. Story is quite remarkable, isn't it?
It's what we played with in the Party of Nine.
Yes.
It's all about, yeah.
Yeah, I know. And boy, that was some interesting story in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I return to this stuff every day. It's fun. I mean, I don't think people really understand this about me because, you know, I'm just doing my own thing over here, but every last offering I've ever created, every experience, every game, every service, every tool, these are integrated aspects of my everyday experience. I'm not over here building stuff in order to sell it. I'm living things and then ultimately at some point, in some cases, being inspired to share it because, hey, other people might benefit from this too. Or because life makes it clear that there's nothing else I'm supposed to be doing right now except for building level 2 of the Forgotten Sense, or building Original Human, which is coming soon, or building the body keys, or whatever it is. It's like, it's what Rocco talked about. You know, if you are in a position where you must write, then do so, because this is life's impulse coursing through you.
Yeah.
So that's what we get to do. And we only get to do that if we're quiet enough to hear or feel or recognize that pulse of life. But then when you're quiet enough for it, you can't miss it. Yeah. It's unavoidable. It's inevitable even. Yeah. It's so inevitable that when we disconnect from it and we become ignorant to it or deaf to it, we become ill and eventually die. Because being in resistance to that dramatic force of life is death.
It is a dramatic force, isn't it?
It is. It's literally the force, the law, the principle, the truth that creates entire worlds. And we have an opportunity to connect directly to that in every moment of our experience. We just haven't known it. And we haven't understood how to utilize the resources that we've been given, in particular, our forms of awareness, which are mental and physical. We haven't understood how to make effective use of ourselves in connecting to that greater force. But when we understand how to utilize these resources, then we become truly capable of something truly magical. Yeah. That's what the Forgotten Sense is about. Forgotten Sense is about creating possibility through the unity of focus and feeling. That's a power-packed tagline, by the way.
It is power-packed. Wow. I've got to tell you, Karen has said, and I do remember, did either of us remember her baby in Party of Nine? And she's made the decision recently to legally return to the name she was given at birth once the paperwork arrives and she can do the legality of it.
Oh, wow.
And this happened as being something more authentically herself. That's huge, isn't it?
It is. It's been years since the three of us in particular, occupied that territory. We were all in that together. And here again, we are with the ripples. The ripples don't actually only expand out in space, but also time, obviously. Right?
Yeah.
Karen, thank you. And congratulations. That's extremely exciting.
It is very exciting, isn't it? And yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about the ripples going out, but not the ripples in time.
Yeah, it just occurred to me. I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard anybody say that before.
You know where I've thought of it before, now that we're on the subject, I've thought of it in terms of social media posts, in fact. Work, business, marketing, these sort of things. My family owns a business called the Uke Bug.
Yeah.
And you've seen this.
Yeah.
The Uke Bug is a business that I've been really happy to help them build over time. And inevitably, every few months, my parents in particular, will get very concerned about whether they're posting enough online. But then when they do post, they're concerned about whether anyone's paying attention. And what I've learned through my experience is that none of it matters. You post when you're inspired to post, and whether or not anyone pays attention, the fact of the matter is, in this world, this technological world that we occupy now, that thing now has an existence. It's there, and it will be found. Because that thing living there, it could be a picture on Instagram, it could be a video on YouTube, whatever it is there, and it is humming at the frequency of whatever vibration created it. If it was joyful and inspired, boom, that's the frequency. If it was fearful, insecure, and grasping, boom, that's the frequency. And whatever that frequency is, it's calling to it matches on that level of frequency. So it will be found, absolutely. Whether it's found today, tomorrow, a year from now, 3 years from now, we're not in control of all that. God is in control of that.
Yeah.
We're only responsible for that essence we were talking about earlier. You'll hear me say this a lot in the Forgotten Sense. What is the quality of energy that motivates the action? That's what we're responsible for. Yeah. What is the quality of the energy that motivates any action? Once we've connected to only the very highest qualities of energy, only the very highest essences, then that which moves through us also expresses that quality of essence.
Karen, by the way, is blowing us kisses.
Oh,
I need to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody said to you that the energy that they were putting out to everything they did was to result in the energy of vast sums of money coming back to them.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel the quality of that essence? How is, because money is a big issue, isn't it?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
With everything. So how do we bring that money into that essence? And you know what I'm trying to say. You're laughing.
I do. I'm laughing. It's like, oh, here, just like, 7 or 8 minutes before the conclusion of this call, let's ask the biggest question that is worthy of the whole series. Okay. It's a very important, very timely, and loving, wonderfully specific question. So a few things that I can share right now as, I guess, like little teasers for those of us who are connected to this stream, right? First, anything that you are reaching for, yearning for, or in any way seeking remains apart from you. Yeah. So if you're putting all your energy out here in order to get money back, you will receive, instead of money, the sound of crickets. Because when you're reaching for something, your beginning point is one of lack. It's subtle stuff. People don't recognize what's truly happening here. Most people engaged in most practices relating in any way to positive thinking or manifestation or the law of attraction are actually beginning from a state or a position that is disempowered, not empowered, that is actually going to perpetuate the very thing they don't want rather than attract the very thing that they're after. So that's some tricky stuff. It's not tricky once you see it. In fact, it's dead obvious. But if you are seeking to achieve something you will struggle to achieve it, if you achieve it at all. And if you do achieve it, not only will it have cost you in terms of effort and many forms of expense, but you won't be able to sustain it.
Yeah.
So there is an enormous missing link here. And the missing link is this. I had a series of questions that came up in my head as we were preparing for this. And I love that now, here on the tail end, we get to kind of address this together. I'll ask you the questions, but your answers, I believe, will be indicative of everyone's. Okay, so Jill, would you rather have flawless gold nugget right now, or the method by which gold can be created in any amount at any time?
It would be any amount at any time, wouldn't it?
Okay. All right. Well, would you rather have a whole genuine bar of gold bullion, or the method by which gold can be created in any amount at any time?
The method by which it can be created.
Okay.
Because it's energy, isn't it? It's there. It already exists.
Well, what we see is that the thing we're yearning for is really the thing we're truly after. And once we receive the thing we thought we wanted, there's still more. If I offered you an entire bank vault full of gold, that method by which to create gold is still more valuable. In fact, it's priceless. And the Forgotten Sense is that method. The Forgotten Sense tells us how to get beneath the yearning, beneath the specific desire, beneath what it is that we think we need to achieve in order to feel fulfillment, and begin from a place of fulfillment. It shows us exactly how this works. I'm telling you, I don't know how to articulate this like in just the right way yet, that literally anyone who hears it will be like, shit, I need that. I need that now. The Forgotten Sense shows the mechanism by which our entire human experience is crafted. And we have been very irresponsible, very ignorant creators. But the Forgotten Sense shows us exactly how to become conscious creators, how to become deliberate in this act.
Yeah.
Literally how to remember ourselves and become involved with our lives rather than dragged along by them until we die.
Yeah. And there was a story I read, you may have read it, it's been doing the rounds on Facebook. I can't remember all of it, but basically this guy's asking for money. Can you spare me any money? And this old lady, she's got a really precious gem. And he says, can I have it? And she gives it to him. Have you seen it?
No.
And he goes away. And then he comes back. And he gives her back the gem. And I'm trying to get the exact words now, Tim. He says, can you teach me what it is that made it so easy to give me this gem? And that seems the undertone of the strength of what you're offering.
It is. You can give a man a fish, or you can teach a man to fish. That's the same idea, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be responsible for giving anyone fish. It would be irresponsible for me to spend my energy so ineffectively. I can't possibly catch enough fish to serve everyone I care about.
Yeah.
But if I am capable of teaching everyone I care about how to fish effectively, then we can actually have some really beautiful times, really beautiful meals together. And that's what my work focuses on. It's crazy, Jill. I was thinking about it in the lead up to this conversation. I've been connected to this deeper stream since I was a child, and especially in adulthood. I have been devoted to the pursuit of whatever is beneath all this stuff. Sure, money's important. Everyone wants money, but the questions are about money. No, the questions are not about money. Money is one thing, and the money is connected to millions of other things. You want the money for what? Well, because I want to live in a nicer place. Well, because I want to buy this, that, or the other thing. Well, because I want to give it away. Endlessly, endlessly, endlessly. And the money itself is only one of many other things peripheral to it that you want, that don't have anything to do with money. What's under all that? What's under all that? Why are we here? The Forgotten Sense both answers why we're here and how we get to utilize that as a precious gift. How we get to become responsible for the purpose that we carry. There's nothing more important.
Yeah.
There's nothing more important. I've really been trying to figure, like, how can I limit or reduce the barriers to entry for this material? I mean, as it stands, the Forgotten Sense is in 2 out of 3 levels are created, and each level is a presentation, a keynote presentation that I deliver one-on-one like this. So it takes time, it takes preparation, and it takes energy. In time, maybe I'll be able to record that presentation and offer it at a much lower rate. But for the time being, anyone listening to this video, if you found your way to this video and you've made it this far in, you're here on purpose. So I'll just say this: if money is a barrier, then please reach out to me. I can't afford to give an hour and a half away per, multiple times per day for free, but I can certainly find something that works. Payment plan, discounts, something. Everyone needs this. Every human being needs this. Every child especially needs this. But if you're listening, you need this. Yeah. So I want to make that, extend that offer to anyone listening. Don't let cost get in the way of accessing what I'm describing here. Let's figure something out.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I know that is completely genuine.
Oh yeah. It's not a sales technique. I don't need to sell. I need to give this, I need this to be shared.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, maybe we'll come up with something. I mean, maybe you and I can come up with something. We'll do a group. We could do maybe like a group presentation. That's an idea I'm just now having. And so I could show up and share it with multiple people at once. I'm not really set up for hosting those kind of experiences myself. When I attempt to do that, I get crickets in response. But when you invite me to these conversations, that's something else. Something very special emerges in that context. So we will discover what that is. But again, if you're listening to this and the impulse is there, just reach out to me. Let's have the conversation and see where it leads us.
Yeah, and let's explore that, because if people watching this thinking, yes, I would really love to be in a group session with Tim doing this, then yes, let me know. You can let us know personally. You don't have to put it in the comments. You can just reach out and say.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And we can let this grow, because it's something that's been put out now.
Yes, that's right.
So now it needs to be allowed to take form and grow.
Yes, it's time. It only took many, many years of germinating in my experience, but now that it's proven itself empirically through experience, it's ready. And I feel 1000% confident sharing it with all of you. I have found the thing that I've been searching for, and now I'll spend the rest of my life sharing it.
Yeah.
This is awesome, Jill.
Wow. Yeah, that would be really exciting.
Okay, we'll find a way.
Okay. So you heard it here.
Yeah, you heard it here first. That's right.
Oh, thank you so much, Tim.
You're welcome. Thank you too.
And
And to everyone in the group who joins us now, later, it's always a special pleasure to show up in this group.
thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I appreciate your time so much.
Oh yeah. Well, you're one of my closest friends, so you get special access to my time.
Thank you.
And then all of our friends in the group by extension.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, on that note, with the offer out there, we will bring today to a close unless there's anything more you wish to add to.
Well, one thing I can share with the group that's very recent is that, as you know, I've been creating these powerful experiences, some of them fairly new, like Mineral Allies. Mineral Allies, the Body Keys, and even Dietary Regimen. Over the past few days, what I've done is I've added examples of each to my website. So when you go to the Mineral Allies, you can actually download my own personal blueprint, and you can see what the full report looks like. Jill, you've already experienced this. The Body Keys too. You can see what a personal formula looks like in full. This is something that I don't know why I never thought of before, but I want people to really be able to recognize tangibly the resource that this is. It's not lightweight. It's dense. No. It's living, and it grows every time you return to it in all of these cases, as Jill can attest. So if you visit my website now, you'll be able to find those. There will be a button on each of those pages. You got to scroll and find it. It's like an Easter egg. But when you find it, you just click on the button and you'll have access to that, and you can see what it looks like. That might be fun to do.
Yes. Get in. I mean, I was so honored to be gifted the Mineral Allies, and it opens up a whole new world, doesn't it?
Sure does. It really does, more so than I anticipated, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it will keep on expanding as well.
It will, because I'm going to continue to expand my education on these themes. In fact, something I'll be doing over the next few days is offering on this stone. This is an emerald. I'm going to show you exactly how I moved into contemplation on this stone and learned about myself through it, and why I carry it every day, and what it means to me. I'll show you how I got to that, and it'll be an example of how you too can use any single stone out of the hundreds that you receive in your personal blueprint. How you can use any of them to learn about yourself and fortify what you learn. So, it's big. All of these things are big. We get to pick and choose which of them we make the most of. But if I were to choose for anyone listening, the beginning point in every case is the forgotten sense. Okay, so have fun with everything I've created on my website, please, but recognize that home base from now on is the forgotten sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for giving me the space to share all of that.
Oh, thank you. I really loved everything that you've shared. You know that.
Yeah, you've been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So we're going to stop the live stream now.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye for now, everyone.
Bye.